listening to On the Topic, and this week I'm attempting to steal a tablet of reawakening. I'm Dan.
And this week I've been visiting Dan in a locked penitentiary, a facility for naughty people, because he's been leering over kids in the last episode. I'm Alex.
Certainly wasn't.
And this week, Dan, we've been set a bit of homework, haven't we?
We have.
We've got a film review. You probably know what it is because you clicked on the episode title, so you already know. But what's a little bit about this? Where's this come from?
This has come from a new listener, so Lewis, and he has asked us to review Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves.
Hi guys, second message I'm sending through today. Hope you're doing okay. I just was wondering what you guys thought about the new Dungeons and Dragons film that came out earlier this year. Sorry if you've discussed this on a previous podcast already, but I thought that it was a good film with a lot of fun, even though D&D is a little bit of a niche hobby. But I thought the film had a good deal for everyone, and it was an awful lot of fun to sit down and watch. On a related topic, there's a group of D&D streamers who had one of their games turned into an animated series that's on Amazon Prime, which I think you guys might also enjoy. But that's enough for me. Take care. See you soon.
He has. And so, Lewis, we're going to do our utmost to be able to give a balanced opinion and view on this.
We'll try.
But what we should say is, neither of us have played D&D before.
No.
So what we're doing is actually, I guess, judging the film on its, the merits of any other film we watch. Unless, of course, it's a Jurassic Park franchise, in which case we're going to like it regardless, really. But we're not biased, and it's a big film. It's had lots of money being ploughed into it. It's an all-star cast, mostly all-stars. So yeah, should we get into it, Dan?
Let's do it. So let's kick things off with the synopsis. Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves is a fantasy heist comedy film. Here we go again. Got all these strange genres being thrown around.
Oddly though, I would, unless you want to go into specific D&D territory, I would say that probably is more fitting.
It's quite
than
accurate, right?
Science fiction horror thriller was
Deep Blue Sea.
Deep Blue Sea and the Meg. Yeah. Anyway, yes, a fantasy heist comedy film.
Based on the tabletop role-playing game Dungeons and Dragons, it is set in the Forgotten Realms campaign setting and has no connections to the previous film trilogy released between 2000 and 2012. There was a trilogy.
Yeah.
Apparently there was a trilogy between those 12 years.
I know there were films, and watching other films, you see the trailers and they're quite grand events, but I admittedly I've never seen any of them apart from this one.
Same. I remember the cartoon as a kid. Did you ever watch that?
Oh, I saw bits actually in the 80s.
Late
80s,
90s?
Yeah.
About that time. It's directed by Jonathan Goldstein and John Francis Daly. Screenplay is by Jonathan Goldstein, John Francis Daly and Michael Gillio. Story is by Chris McKay and Michael Gillio. Produced by Jeremy Latcham, Brian Goldner and Nick Mayer. And cinematography, Barry Peterson, and music by Lorne Balfe. What a guy. Runtime is 134 minutes. Let's go on to the budget and the box office.
Shall we?
It's quite bad.
It's $150 million. Well, that's what they've said is the budget.
That's the budget.
So it's not a small bank. And I will say at this stage, uncharacteristic for us to be able to do a bit of a deep dive, but I will right now. I think you can see it.
Yeah.
I think you can see that money. And usually when we talk about these films, you go, not sure. The CGI, the VFX is really good.
No, I'd agree with you on that.
I watched it on the streamers and it looks decent on the small screen. So on the big screen, it must have been banging.
I wanted to see it at the cinema. Actually, I think it was in my most anticipated.
It
for
was
this
on
year.
the wines. Yeah, I think it was beginning of the summer, wasn't it?
Yes.
we earmarked, and then I did the selfish thing of going on the other side of the world for 3 weeks. Box office, Dan, how much did it put in?
208.2 million.
And the reason why you breathe in, because I guess that is technically a flop, right?
Yeah.
They need to at least double it and then more some, because that probably doesn't even do the marketing budget.
I've put in my notes. I've got note. The film received positive reviews from critics, but underperformed at the box office, grossing over 208 million worldwide, while falling short of its break-even point. So a lot of the money goes into marketing as well.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I find really I'm struggling with this film, because not just because of the way I received the film, and I did enjoy parts of it, not all of it, but parts. The critics, which we'll talk about, I guess, in a minute, liked it. The audience liked it.
Got BBC.
The critics liked it and the audience liked it, but yet no one seemingly went to go and see it.
Yeah.
So what's that based on? I don't really know.
Is there a stigma around the whole RPG stuff?
Or, yeah, maybe it put people off because they were worrying in case they weren't really going to get into the content. I don't know. I mean, I was aware that things were being mentioned. I think Baldur's Gate was mentioned a couple of times, and I know that that's a D&D reference.
I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 came out this year, and my brother has been raving about that game. Like, he says it's like the best game he's played in a very long time.
But that's all I knew. So there no doubt talk about, special artifacts or, I don't know, not gangs, but different factions. I would never know who they are. They're just part of this new law. So, yeah, maybe some people have gone, well, I won't understand it. I guess it's... People may shout at me. It might be even similar to people like onboarding at the MCU like now, like 30 films in and going, there's no point in me watching this because I've never seen like the 50 billion films before where they're all complex characters and storylines and all the rest of it. Maybe people have gone, well, why would I watch a D&D film because I have no idea what it's about, and it is a rich background tapestry. I talked to Dan off air, and I recently went to EGX, Eurogamer Expo in London this year. I usually go when we sometimes do roundups of E3, etc. None of the AAA big titles were there. Xbox wasn't there because they have their own. PlayStation have their own. Lots of indies. But I was saying to Dan how there were tabletop gaming.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't say it to you. There was tabletop gaming. It's a big old section, and just it was lovely to see friends just gather around tables playing board games.
Did you ever play tabletop games growing up? I got into
No, not really.
Warhammer, I think, in my sort of very early teens.
Right.
It was so expensive.
Still is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can imagine. But I mean, back then, used to be able, it was all metal or white metal
Yeah.
and plastic. But I think now they've just use plastic. I think
think
they've binned
so.
off the metal stuff.
Yeah, unless you go big and die cast and very expensive models. But yeah, it was lovely to see. And aside from that, there was also a D&D section. And again, I don't know how it works. It must have been a very short campaign. But they built this little maze, and I peeked into the curtain, and you could see like a forest that they painted and made up. So clearly they were running an event and guiding people through the sets, which was a cool concept. But I don't know what they were doing behind those closed doors. And maybe that's what people were going into, is going, well, I'm not too sure if I'll understand it, so maybe I won't go and see it.
Maybe we'll get invited by Lewis to his D&D
It's a genuine request. And again, we'll talk about this off air, how I'm keen to observe, because I'm interested to know what's going on, and I know the community is very open. So yeah, if any of our listeners are open to showing us what it's all about, I'm keen to learn and to understand. I'm not going to say that I'm going to go and invest lots of time in it, but I am genuinely interested. And partly because of this film, but also because I know there's just such a rich kind of background and lore and world that I'm interested to dip my toe into.
You see D&D stuff everywhere as well. If you go in HMV, it's on the shelves as you sort of go in, and with all the figures and stuff. Or you go to a good bookshop like Waterstones, they have it in there, I think. But or any good comic book shop.
Of course. Yeah.
Somewhere like Dave's in Brighton, one of my favourite shops, if I'm ever down that neck of the woods.
Dive in there, get your D&D fix.
But, I mean, going back to the whole budget and box office, I'm surprised the cast didn't reel people in. It's a quite star-studded one. What have we got, Alex?
Chris Pine. I'm a big fan of Chris Pine. I think he's funny. I think he's a great actor.
Star Trek, phenomenal.
Fantastic. Very left field casting, but works out great. Now he plays Edgin Davis, a bard and a former member of the Harpers, which is an important aspect to call out. You've got a Michelle Rodriguez, which I struggle with Michelle because she's typecast. Do you know what I mean?
I only ever remember from Resident Evil 2000.
I think basically she skipped the Fast films and gone, you're right, Resident Evil to this. It's almost like a carbon copy of that character of those films. Nothing wrong with it. She can do it, but I know she can do more. We've got a Regé Jean page. I've got a bit of Dan here. How do you pronounce that?
Reggie.
That sounds good. Yeah. Regé Jean Page. You've got Justice Smith, a Sophia Lillis, a Hugh Grant, a Chloe Coleman, and a Daisy Head. So a couple of recognisable names there. Some faces which I think are on Netflix and the streamers, and some of them we maybe never heard of before. But I mean, they're all pretty good actors in the main. Some of them I think are underutilised. We'll talk about that perhaps in some of our favourite bits, not so favourite bits. But it's not a bad lineup.
No, but you also skipped Reggie's character, because I think you're going to try and stitch me up on this one. X-E-N-K, I think that's Zenk.
I think it's Zenk, yeah. Zenk Yenda.
Christ. Right, this is going to be a fun episode, trying to pronounce things.
And all these people loving D&D are going, you idiots, like, this is a thing. You're butchering it. Yeah, massively. We're going to get the complaints. But look, guys, this is why you've got to invite us in and let us learn and get exposed to it.
Yeah, help us out.
Well, Dan's had a lot of exposure in the last 7 days. We don't want any more exposure. We'll end up in prison again.
I think I've had enough exposure in 5 years.
I just had to get you broken out of prison. The police are looking for you after the shenanigans of last week on the boat. Jesus.
Well, I said I wasn't doing that.
Well, no one was asking you to defend yourself, and there you are.
Christ. Yeah, anyway. Let's kick things off the plot.
Yes.
So prior to imprisonment, Bard Edgin Davis served in the Harpers, an order of peacekeepers, until his wife was killed by disciples of a red wizard. He's been on the wine. He had arrested. Accompanied by barbarian Holger Kilgore, Edgin attempted to make a new life for himself and his daughter Kira by turning to theft, teaming with amateur sorcerer Simon Umar, rogue con artist Forge Fitzwilliam, and Forge's mysterious acquaintance Safina. Whilst raiding a Harper stronghold, Edgin attempted to steal a tablet of reawakening to resurrect his wife, but he and Holger were captured while their accomplices escaped. Bit of magic.
Yeah.
I think they get lifted up into it's almost like a weird jelly thing, isn't it?
It's like a time spell. Yeah. So they all get captured effectively by this growing bubble of time, and they're captured. Which is a cool scene, actually. It is a heist. It's almost like the 2002's Italian Job, which in all but name takes obviously back the 66 heist film, but it's very similar setup where at the beginning of the film they all go to do this heist, and then someone in their team turns on them and they end up going to prison or being shopped in. And it's a very similar start, but it's a strong start, and I think it's a great beginning, and it's a really interesting way to kind of smoothly ease us into that world.
Yeah,
it's not magic thrown at you and what's going on here. It's very slowly we're going to do this, and they find this secret vault, don't they? And then suddenly it all goes a bit wrong. They cast a spell, and then obviously they're stuck in time and surrounded.
Yep, indeed. And then cut to 2 years later, they're imprisoned in an Arctic revel's end.
This is funny. This is a funny set of scenes. I did like it.
The pair, unaware they have been pardoned, escape to Neverwinter and learn Forge has become Lord there after its prior Lord fell mysteriously incapacitated.
Yes.
But yeah, it's a great scene. They escape on like some eagle. Was it an eagle man?
Eagle man. Again, people will be shouting saying it's a thing. But yeah, one of the judges who's late to their pardon or their hearing, and they end up basically grabbing him, throwing out the window, knowing that he'll fly, and they escape. And it kind of harkens back to that at the end of the film. but they've now boarded up the window.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's happened before, and it is funny. It's a funny scene.
I can still hear the D&Ders crying us. What are you doing? You're butchering our love.
Absolute anger.
Sorry. Forge has been taking care of Kira, convincing her that Edgin's selfish greed led to his arrest. Quite. It is revealed that Safina is a red wizard, and together they orchestrated Edgin and Holger's capture.
I don't know an awful lot about red wizards, but they are badass.
Big red misty things that take people out.
Yeah. Want to have world domination, and they're not afraid to kill people.
No. Wow. Talking about killing people.
Oh, yeah.
Safina attempts to execute Edgin and Holger, but they escape and decide to rob Forge's vault and bring Kira home during the upcoming High Sun Games, needing the tablet to prove their innocence to Kira and resurrect Edgin's wife. Of course, he's not wrong there. It's a bit of a selfish act, isn't it? Trying to steal a tablet to bring your wife back.
Yep. But I mean, you would though. Just saying.
Why not?
Yeah.
The gladiatorial games had been banned, but Forge reinstituted them, promising that the games would bring tourists and money. I mean, it's like real life, isn't it? We have big things in the UK to try and bring tourists in and money. You know,
Gladiators.
Well, not gladiators, but we've got victorious.
Fights to death. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's a really interesting one because they banned it because it was seen as bloodthirsty and poor taste. And yes, he brings back the games. And again, it goes back to gladiatorial times.
Gladiatorial, yeah.
Ancient Rome and Greece and the rest of it. And I think it takes kind of, again, D&D people would be very happy, notes from, say, the Maze Runner and Hunger Games and that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Changing mazes and being chased by monsters, and it's. I mean, we'll get to it in a minute, but I really enjoyed that part of the film. I thought it was really well done, very clever, and there's some high stakes.
Oh yes. Edgar and Holger track down Simon to help. He suggests also recruiting Dorich, I think I've got that right, a druid whose forest community is fighting forced logging ordered by Forge. I don't think that sentence makes any sense, Shapeshifted into a fly, Dorich infiltrates Forge's castle, finding the vault has magical defences from, for God's sake, Mordenkainen.
That'll do.
I hope I've done that justice, guys.
Probably not.
Which Simon cannot disable. I thought this was actually a really good scene, to be honest.
It's almost like a one-shot, isn't it? Where Dorich is, as you say, a fly, and then ends up having to transform into an eagle, being shot at and chased through the streets, and then ends up
a
deer with the clumsy legs and the cobble streets, and eventually gets out when the gates slam behind her.
Just slides under.
It's a really good, engaging scene and fun, and every twist and turn. The Red Wizard is Safina, trying to stop her from escaping. It's a really engaging scene. I liked it.
It was a really good part.
I bet on my IMAX that was mind blowing, because it's that kind of the scene that you go, wow, that's.
Yeah.
And that's where part of the 150 million can really shine through, because, as I say, it's just a one shot, seeing this poor shape shifting magic. Forest community dweller.
Yeah.
Who ends up, nearly getting skewered by these townsfolk. It's really good. It's really good.
Simon believes a magic relic, the Helm of Disjunction, could disable them. They travel to an old graveyard to ask Holger's ancestors where to find it. And again, this is actually really good and quite a funny comedic scene.
It's really smart, actually. Smart writing.
Simon resurrects the dead with a talisman long enough for them to answer 5 questions each. I mean, that's quite specific.
It is.
The corpses reveal they gave the helm of Zenk Yandar, a paladin who fled his country. They? When Zaz Tam turned Thayans into an undead army.
Yep. Not
being asked enough questions, one corpse is left alive.
It is funny. He's like, I'm gonna die now. He's like, ask me another question. He's like, nope. No, please ask me another question. Nope.
There's also one where he He's asking a question, but not directly to the corpse. No, that's one question.
Yeah. Yeah. And before you know it, he's dead. He's got to ask someone else.
I think it's like the first one, isn't it?
But it's really clever because as they go through each of those corpses, they tell part of their story as they hand off, this magical item between them in this age-old battle, and it's a really smart, funny scene. And I think it brings to life kind of the light relief of and the tone of the film. It's really good.
After forcing Edgin to swear to distribute any gained bounty to the people, Zenk guides the group through the Underdark to retrieve the helm. Again, this is quite a good scene as well. With the help of a teleportation staff obtained from Holger's halfling ex-husband, it was played by Bradley Cooper.
Oh, it was a nice little little show there. It was good.
They find the relic but are attacked by Thayan assassins sent by Safina. Zenk fights off the assassins and helps the group escape from the Abyss Red Dragon. Oh, for God's sake. Thembashord?
What do you call me?
Thembashord, I think.
Okay.
Before departing. Again, this is a really good scene where he's fighting the zombies with the sword.
Yes.
Really good.
Yeah.
And the dragon sequence, again, that sort of felt like the stakes were quite high. Because I
being chased.
Sort of struggled a little bit with this. And there were things that sort of just bring me up and then I'd go back down again. I'm like, right, how do I keep that? Is it going to keep my interest going? But that was a good bit. Simon has trouble mastering the helm's power, so they decide to use the staff to enter the vault during the games. Which
is a clever setup. This is now the heist, and it's how do you get into there, and they use this mirror, don't they?
Yeah.
But they then got to get into a travelling carriage, and they end up getting into the carriage and using the mirror to be a portal in, and it's very clever actually the way that they do it, and it's a bit mind bending at times, don't you think?
Yeah, that was quite clever because they almost sort of bugger it up as well when they're trying to get that mirror.
Yeah, because it falls over and then it's upside down. But so that when they go through the mirror, they're on the roof or something. It's crazy. It's really good.
Where are we? Simon and Holger infiltrate the magically sealed door but find the room empty except for a magical trap.
Yep, they got done.
They did. Savina, disguised as Kira, subdues Edgin. The group is captured and forced to participate in the games, but manages to escape the stadium. Dorich discovers Forge has loaded the treasure onto a boat and is preparing to flee. The group steals the boat for themselves and rescues Kira from Forge, who threatened Kira's life.
What a bastard.
I know, what a bastard. Good old Hugh Grant. As they escape, the group realise Safina organised the games to draw a massive crowd and turn them into an undead army using the curse that destroyed Thay. So dropping some big red mist on those people to control them.
Yep.
Lovely. The group returns, transporting Forge's stolen riches out of the boat with the teleportation staff and spreading them across the city by hot air balloon, drawing people out of the stadium before Safina's spell takes effect.
Quite funny because they've got his big old face, haven't they? And is out his mouth that it's spewing money and jewels or something? Because his face is plastered across the whole city. He's supposed to be this warden of the people and to look after them, and obviously they're all chasing the money as he's literally throwing it out into the streets. It's quite a funny scene.
Enraged at her defeat, Safina attacks the group, but Simon manages to master his magic and nullify Safina's time stop spell, allowing Kira to use an invisibility pendant Edgin and Holger gave her as a child to place an anti-magic bracelet on Safina. Safina is killed when attacked by Dorich in owl bear form, which is quite cool.
Very cool.
It's almost like the Hulk versus Loki. Absolutely bashing around. It's great. And then crushed by falling debris. That's kind of smart. But Holger is fatally injured. Edgin uses the tablet to bring her back to life, accepting that he wanted to bring back his wife only for his own sake, while Holger had become a true part of their family. Dorrit signals openness to a relationship with Simon.
She does.
Restored, the old Lord of Neverwinter declares the team heroes of the realm. Zinc sends Forge to Revel's End, where he spectacularly fails to escape, as Edgin and Holger did when his pardon was denied. So we've come full circle
We have.
in that film, and that's where it ends. Likes and dislikes. Let's talk about the likes.
Yes. Set pieces, Dan. For me, there were plenty, and I think they punctuated almost perfectly during the 130 minutes runtime.
Yeah.
We talked about them as we went through. It's been a couple of weeks now since I've seen the film, and I remember them quite clearly. So obviously they left a lasting impression, which was good. Cast were great. Chris Pine was fantastic. Justice Smith, Simon Umar was great. Daisy Head was quite scary at times.
The daughter of Anthony Head, I believe, who
Really?
played Giles in Buffy.
Yeah. So comes from quite a proud lineage. The Red Wizard of Thay, she was quite imposing as a character. I think played it very well. And of course, a nice little nod to Bradley Cooper, who's a little half man. I liked it. I think the pacing, though, at times was a little bit off.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think and this is not the fault of the film, because I've just got a little boy in the family, so it's difficult to sit down and commit some time to it. But I ended up doing this in about 3 or 4 sittings. And part of that was because I can't commit to a full amount of time, even though it's not that long. But also because I think in between those set pieces, it's quite slow. The pace isn't quite balanced. And I think that's what I struggled with, because I don't think it was the content. I don't think it was the storyline. I just simply think the pacing was a little bit off at certain points. But when it picked up, they crescendoed, and there were fantastic scenes, and I really enjoyed the action, and they were clever and witty, and the scripting was spot on. But the peaks were great, but the troughs were also quite slow for me.
Yeah, in my likes, I've put the cast prop this film up. I say phenomenal casting, and the CGI. I say a lot of the budget, you can tell, went into that, and it really does hold up. Dislikes. As much as I tried to stay focused on the film, I just never really felt fully invested, and I think you sort of hit the nail on the head. It was the pacing. It's when it goes up, it sort of goes back down, you're like, oh, I'm really struggling here. And I didn't feel like the stakes felt high enough for an action-adventure film.
I struggle with a little bit of the desire for Edgin to kind of bring back his wife. Because he sees this as a dragonfly that's supposed to represent
his wife.
Yeah, and her love for dragonfly, and it's a nod. She's in a different life, and I think he even sees a scene, doesn't he, where she's like, "Don't worry about me, I'm all good. Think about our daughter." And he's like, "Okay, I see a dragonfly. I'm gonna bring back my mate, Holger." And you're like,
Yeah.
"But would he?" Because he was absolutely in love and besotted with his wife, and he was very clear and laser focused in terms of what he was doing. He risked his life countless times in those 1 hour 30 minutes to bring back his wife.
He never felt like a selfish character, though. Do you know what I mean?
No,
he always felt
no.
like a good guy.
No, he does.
What do you think?
I think he comes across as a good guy.
I mean, as a selfish person, I don't really
no
sort of see it.
I don't. But I also don't see him being swayed so easily when it really comes to him bringing back his wife, going, actually, no. Actually, everything that I was trying for, I've gone through all this pain, all this heartache. No, actually, she's brown bread. I'm going to bring back Holger instead.
Yeah.
The logic is there because actually, as you say, she is part of the family, and she's almost the mum to his daughter because his daughter didn't know her. And I know that, and I understand that, and I was paying attention, I promise, guys.
Yeah.
But it feels a little bit at odds with the character. And I don't know, I just struggled. And like you say, those are big odds, bringing back a loved one, don't get me wrong. But when he could quite easily just go, nah, I'm good. It's almost like there wasn't a strong kind of investment in the storyline. And then he changed his mind very quickly. It's almost like, oh, okay, so what was that really for? I don't know. Again, people may be saying, well, guys, you missed the point. But in terms of the character, I did find that just a little bit odd. Everything else up until that point I understood and I enjoyed. But what was quite a critical plot twist, I didn't believe in. I think ultimately that's what... I still like the film, even with that at the end, but I just feel a bit cheated.
Yeah.
It's not to say you can't have a change of heart and a realisation. It just felt a little bit... What was that for then?
Yeah.
Yeah, you saved the city. Great, fantastic. Round of applause and you've cleared your name, but you've totally gone back on the whole reason why you embarked upon this.
I feel like the Red Witch never really had a prominent role as a bad person. It was just sort of like a bit out of the blue, and you're like,
the final third,
she a bit shoehorned in.
Yeah, the final third, she kind of pushed Forge aside and like, no, I'm gonna fucking do this. I'm gonna kill these people. Like, now this is my plan, and everyone then realised that it really is world ending. But then, to what end? What are you gonna do? So you got this army. What's your plan? You don't really get past that.
No. And as I said, the stakes didn't really feel high enough for me to sort of feel invested. I know we talked about this in Deep Blue Sea last week. And the stakes are you've got to get out alive. And literally it shows in that film because 2 people out of 7 people survive that entire film.
Yeah.
Or, Lord of the Rings. You've got to destroy the ring, and of course there's casualties along the way.
There's plenty.
Battle of Helm's Deep, for example.
Phenomenal.
What a great action sequence. Yeah, it just wasn't enough. I mean, I tried not to look at my phone trying to watch this because, when you do a podcast episode on something, you want to be fully invested.
You do.
Didn't pick up my phone, but I still struggled to sort of feel engaged.
Yeah. I think for me, part of it, I agree. And I think part of it for me was Michelle Rodriguez and Hugh Grant. Michelle can act. She's more than a two-dimensional comedic heavy hitter. But yet she's just a carbon copy, and you said it, Dan, of the Resident Evil character.
Yeah.
She can wield a weapon, she looks good doing it, she's athletic.
A bit aloof.
Yeah, but there was no substance. And I know perhaps they wanted to come across as a bit like a half-wit, all brawn, no brains. I don't think they fully committed to that, but I don't think she got past that. She had some funny lines, but she had depth. She had this relationship with her ex-husband. She had a life that she kind of left behind, and she was reluctant to talk about it. You could see the pain, but it never really felt genuine. And Hugh Grant, I mean, if you look at, Jesus, Paddington 2,
yeah,
one of the highest rated films on Rotten Tomato for good reason. That film is bloody brilliant. Don't care who you are. If you don't like Paddington, you're a serial killer, and we will come and find you. That's a threat. I'm just joking, listener. But you know what I mean? Like he was. Have you seen Paddington? You could tell me you haven't seen it.
No, I haven't. I've seen Paddington 1.
I'm going to flip this bloody table again. Paddington, we're going to watch it this Christmas.
Okay.
Dan, it's so good. But in that, Hugh Grant is the star of the show, and there's plenty in there. He's so good as a baddie. He's funny, he's witty, he's got charm, and he's all of these things in this film.
I didn't even say he's a bit of a dickhead in Bridget Jones.
Yes. But he does it better in those films. In here, they kind of went, oh, huge, do that again. That was so good. Do that character again. And he goes, okay, cool. But it's only feels surface. It doesn't really feel like we learn any more about his motivations apart from I want to get rich and I've stolen the kid. Why have you stolen the kid? Like, that's weird. Like, I'm talking to the wrong person.
I'm certainly not going to end this episode on something like that.
Maybe you shouldn't comment. But he's stealing children and he wants to be rich. Okay, fine. There are other motivations and they're fine. They can be something he fixates on. But kind of feels a bit very shallow, and he could do more. And I think that's what I was really saying, is that I thought the casting was great, but the script for Michelle and for Hugh just fell short of actually what they could really do.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of where this kind of leads me to. I enjoyed it. I would have got it more if I was a D&D fan, because I think lots of Easter eggs were in there.
Yeah.
A lot of them went over my head. I didn't even know they were Easter eggs. I thought they were just part of the lore of the film. But what I would say is at times it felt like Chris Pine. Who else? Reggie Jean.
Yeah. Reggie. Good old Reg.
It felt like they were. People are really going to hate me for this. I don't mean to come across as disrespectful, but it felt like they were cosplaying D&D.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, you could tell they could act. You could tell they had a very good script, but it felt like they were not being a genuine character. I don't know if it makes any sense, but it feels like they were embodying what it meant to be the character.
Yeah.
But it felt like they were playing a D&D game. It didn't feel like they were actually part of the film as a bona fide character living in this realm. Does that make sense?
I know what you're trying to say. It's almost like Henry Cavill being The Witcher. He embodied The Witcher because he
100%.
loves it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And he lived and breathed this, whereas it actually felt like these guys were emulating that, but it felt like they were cosplaying.
Yeah.
They enjoyed it, but did they believe in it? And I don't know. Maybe that's because perhaps the comedy was slightly off, and that's where it broke from kind of that immersion. But it kind of felt like they were acting a D&D event, and that might be unfair. And if people disagree, then by all means, let's have the conversation and let's get your alternative view. But I don't know, just at times it kind of broke that fourth wall.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, you're not actually the character. I don't believe you're the character. I believe you're acting that character. But that's as far as it went, and maybe that's perhaps why I couldn't get into it so much, because it felt like they were cosplayers.
Yeah. Overall thoughts, I put it's a fun film, but it's not one I'd automatically go back to.
No.
But again, I've actually put, it's very similar to what you said. Maybe it's that I don't understand the D&D lore.
Yeah, and I think I'd say we would definitely get more out of it, and I'm sure people who understand it enjoyed it because of that added layer. Again, people who watch an MCU film will go, oh, that's an Easter egg. Oh, and that goes back to the time in the comics back in 90s when this happened, and oh, does that mean so-and-so's going to come? And people just watching the film go, why are all these people like squealing and getting excited? What's all this about? And 100% I get it, and perhaps we're not the intended audience. And what I would say is you can watch this film and still enjoy it. I watched it on a Saturday night, and I enjoyed my Saturday night, and it was great. But I still think it wasn't enough, as you say, Dan, to kind of win me over, and perhaps be one that I'll go back for a while.
I do wonder, would I enjoyed it more if we'd gone to cinema to see it? But I don't know. I'm not sure.
I think
tough one.
I think the investment in the CGI was no doubt shining through. So that in itself was, I think, the star of the film. Everything else, I think, it wasn't quite so consistent.
I mean, the trailers probably made it look better than it actually is.
Isn't that always the way, though?
I remember looking at the trailers and going, this looks really good. Most anticipated 2023, let's go. But yeah, no, but you're right. I mean, some films, the trailers do make films look better than they actually are.
The whole point is to sell it to you. I mean, critics' consensus, they find it a 91%. An infectiously good-spirited comedy with a solid emotional core. Not sure about that last bit. Dungeons & Dragons on Amongst Thieves. Honor, by the way.
Honor.
American honor.
Yeah.
It's missing a U. Honour. Honor is honour, not Honor. But anyway, that's fine. Offers fun, fantasy and adventure, even if you don't know your HP from your OP. Very witty summary there.
Yeah, good take.
Audience says 93%. Again, not bad. It entertainingly blends action, fantasy and comedy, all while respecting the source material. Perhaps that's where it is. We don't know the source material to maybe perhaps bump up our interest or enjoyment. But it kind of full circle goes back to, well, 91, 93%, that's a pretty good score on Rotten Tomatoes.
Sure.
And this is now a good couple of months since it came out, so it's pretty much going to stay like that. So why did it only make 208 million?
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Don't get me wrong, that's a lot of bank, but that's only like $58 million more than what actually your budget was, and you still got to...
Didn't even make
claw
break
it back,
even.
you know what I mean? So
it's bizarre, yeah.
This is the first time that I've reviewed a film and I've gone, this doesn't make any sense, because usually you correlate with the takings with the critics and with the audience. Sometimes the audience disagree with critics, but this is a really high consensus but a poor performance. And I wonder whether maybe it is people who understand it went to see it and they're a smaller community, or perhaps people were unsure of it. But those who did see it, I don't know. It's an interesting one.
I kind of wish I could have done this review more justice from my perspective. So I just struggled. To get through this film. Felt longer than it actually was. But I say, I'm not dissing it. It had its highs and lows, right?
It did.
But yeah. Sorry, guys. But look, the invite's open. If you want me and Alex to come along to a D&D event, we can watch from the sidelines, help us understand it. Maybe we'll have a bit more
appreciation
for it, yeah.
And then we'll go and watch it again.
Indeed. Let's hit up the listener.
Let's do it.
We got a comment from Sam. He said, I thought it was a fantastic film with some amazing nods to old and new D&D. So we've got someone that's already into D&D lore.
Yeah.
Chris Pine was a great frontman for the whole thing.
I agree. I think he carried the cast very well.
Yeah, for sure. But that's it really from the listener this week. So we should probably talk about what's coming up next.
The biggie. We've been talking about it for a while.
Yeah.
We talked about it before we did the recording. We talked about it just after recording, and we've talked about it since.
It's been teased on the socials.
Next week, it's our biggie. It's our Halloween annual episode.
Our fourth one of the OTT series.
With Southern Ghost Society. It's an interview, but it's some interesting stories. And some insights into what kind of happens on a paranormal investigation. I didn't know. Dan's been on them before. We talked about it on our annual Halloween episodes previously. So he knows, but it's really interesting to talk to Dan and Andy about, how do you approach it, and some memorable stories and some really interesting anecdotes. And I could have spoken to him for another 2 more hours.
Yeah, for sure. I think we should get them back on for another episode.
Do you reckon?
Because they've just got so much to tell, I think, between them. It's not just about the paranormal, but it's like, what is the normal?
Yeah.
Because part of the whole paranormal investigation, can you debunk it? Because that's essentially what you go out to do. Is it paranormal? And then I thought, what I found quite fascinating, they actually categorise things, don't they? So you've got a C,
yes,
and then a B, then an A, and then they'll go, okay, so this is what we're going to do next time when we come back to this location. And there are things that you should do, that you shouldn't do, and how did they get into being paranormal investigators? It's really good. It's 2 hours 15 minutes?
Yeah, give or take. And we even take along some audio and visual paranormal activities from yesteryear, when we talked about it in 21's episode.
Yeah.
And that's really good, and we talk about it and try and debunk, and it's a really fascinating episode.
And to get you in the mood, why don't you go back and revisit or visit some of our Halloween episodes?
Yeah.
There's 3 of them. They're all good.
They're all cracking.
So first episode's more about our experiences, so that was 2020's.
Yep.
21, we take you a journey across the UK. Sorry, Alex.
I know. Stroking me there.
Touching, yeah. Sorry about that.
Better that than the kids.
Take you on a journey.
Yep.
Across the UK to some haunted locations.
Uh-huh.
And then last year we kept it more remote, so we went around Portsmouth, Southsea, and some of the surrounding areas. So it's a really good episode.
And that also touched on some folklore, didn't it?
It did.
So yeah, we've got a good old mix there, and again, when it drops next week, we've got a fantastic episode for you to get you into the mood for Halloween a couple of days later. So we've got that. What else would you have done?
November's shaping up to be quite a busy one, I think. We might review the Blink album.
Oh, yes.
I mean, a lot of people on Instagram said we shouldn't, but it's actually when I reviewed 9 back in 2019, it got quite a lot of listens.
What's the punters know? They want this.
Yeah, they want it, really.
Yeah.
So we'll probably review that. We're going to have a look at review Sex Education Season 4.
We are, yeah, I'm nearly there, nearly finished.
I finished it now. Got my notes ready.
Good.
So I'm ready to go.
Loki.
The Marvels. So it's been a while since we've done an MCU episode.
Been a while since there's been some MCU content, but
It has.
it's coming thick and fast towards the end of the year. So yeah, we'll have a series review and a film review before then we get into our Christmas period.
Yeah, look forward to the Christmas period. So our Christmas speech, we're going to do the OTT awards this year for our Christmas episode. Not to say that we've burnt out our Christmas ideas, but if you go back to OTT 8, you can listen to our favourite Christmas films.
You're doing the Rain Man again. I don't know how you remember these things.
What else have we done? We did a Die Hard Christmas film review.
That was good.
It's a Christmas film. I don't care who you are. It's a Christmas film.
It is.
What did we do last year? It was like a Christmas cracker extravaganza where we talk about food, presents, nostalgia, Argos catalogues.
Yeah, it's cracking.
It's a great episode. And of course, that's the most anticipated 2024.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's going to be a busy end to the year, so we're looking forward to bringing more time-relevant, maybe not so time-relevant, delicious content.
Indeed.
If you want to get in touch, if you want to get involved, follow those socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, which is @OnTheTopicPod. It's not Twitter anymore, is it? It's X. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we've got YouTube and WordPress, Alex.
Yeah, WordPress is ontopicpodcast.wordpress.com. Go give a visit. That's basically our website where we've got our ugly mugs, our bios. We've got our newsletters, so subscribe, sign up, and when an episode drops, you'll be notified. And if you don't have a podcast player of preference, you can stream my whole back catalogue for as far as all the way back from the weekly roundup days, and you can listen to all of our episodes there. And we're on YouTube, so up to date. So we know people are streaming on YouTube, and there's a lot of you. So again, thank you for listening and watching us there. All you got to do is hit that like button and subscribe, and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified when we drop another time-relevant, delicious podcast. All you got to do is search for On Topic Podcast or at OTTGITS, get in the C, and you'll find us on that platform too.
Will indeed. And if you're on Spotify listening to us, please give us a rating because it helps with the algorithms and it brings in more listeners.
It does.
Recommend us to your friends and family. It really does help.
Share the love.
Not that we get any money from it. It would be nice.
Maybe one day.
We can all but hope.
Yeah.
We can dream. That's it. That wraps up for another week. I don't know how I'm going to end this episode. I'm going to just be on my best behaviour. I've been Dan.
Well, I'm not. I'm going to turn into an owl bear and start flipping some more tables because Dan and I have fallen out again. I'm Alex.
We'll see you next week.